If you ask most people what a police K-9 unit looks like, the image is almost always the same. A patrol car stops outside a building, a police officer steps out, opens the back door, and a powerful German Shepherd or Belgian Malinois jumps to the ground. Within seconds, the dog begins searching. To the public, it can look almost effortless. The dog finds suspects, tracks missing people, or detects drugs hidden inside vehicles. The officer stands beside the animal like a partner, issuing commands that the dog seems to understand instantly. But behind that moment is a system most people never see. Because K-9 units are not simply officers with dogs, they are structured programs inside police departments, with their own training pipelines, supervision levels, and leadership hierarchy. And just like any other professional system, you don't start at the top, you start at the bottom. Usually as a regular patrol officer, most police officers spend years responding to calls, traffic stops, disturbances, burglaries, and domestic incidents. During that time, they learn the fundamentals of policing, how to evaluate situations quickly, how to manage risk, and how to make decisions under pressure. Only after gaining that experience can an officer apply to become part of the K-9 unit. Even then, the process is competitive. Departments typically look for officers with strong disciplinary records, physical fitness, and proven decision-making under stress. Working with a police dog introduces new risks. A dog deployed at the wrong moment can injure the wrong person or create legal problems for the department. So the first step into the K-9 hierarchy begins with a selection process. Officers submit applications. They may undergo interviews with supervisors, physical testing, and scenario evaluations designed to see how they react under pressure. If selected, they enter the first stage of the K-9 ladder. But the interesting part is that the dog still hasn't arrived yet. Because before anyone receives a K-9 partner, they have to prove they understand the responsibility that comes with it. Police dogs are not just tools, they are trained animals capable of using force, and the handler is responsible for every decision that dog makes in the field. Once officers are accepted into the program, they are paired with a dog and begin months of specialized training. During this time, both the officer and the dog learn how to operate as a team. The handler learns how to read the dog's behavior, small signals that indicate when the dog has picked up a scent or located a suspect. The dog learns how to follow commands, search environments, and stop when instructed. Only after passing certification tests does the team become operational. At that moment, the officer officially enters the next level of the hierarchy. They are no longer just a patrol officer, they are a K-9 handler. And that role changes the nature of their work in ways most people don't realize, because from that day forward, the dog doesn't stay at the station. It goes home with them, which means the job no longer ends when the shift is over. The first real step into the K-9 hierarchy begins long before an officer ever handles a police dog. It starts with becoming a K-9 candidate. In most police departments, this position is not a formal rank, but rather a stage in the selection process. Officers working regular patrol submit an application when a position in the K-9 unit becomes available. Because K-9 programs are small, sometimes only a handful of teams in an entire department, openings don't happen often. When they do, competition can be intense. Most departments require 3 to 5 years of patrol experience before an officer can apply. Supervisors want candidates who have already demonstrated calm decision-making under pressure. Deploying a police dog is considered a significant use of force, and departments want handlers who understand exactly when that force is justified. The selection process typically involves several stages. First comes the review of the officer's service record, disciplinary issues. Complaints or poor evaluations can eliminate candidates immediately. Next come interviews with command staff or the current K-9 supervisors. These interviews often focus on practical questions, how the officer handles stress, whether they are willing to house a police dog at home, and whether their living situation is suitable for the animal. That last requirement surprises some candidates. A K-9 handler's dog does not stay at the station, it lives with the officer full-time. This means the officer becomes responsible for feeding, exercising, grooming, and monitoring the dog's health, even when they are off duty. Many departments require a fenced yard or a kennel structure to ensure the dog has a safe place to live. Candidates who pass the interviews may also go through physical tests and scenario evaluations. Supervisors want to know how the officer handles fast-moving situations. Tracking a suspect through a dark neighborhood or searching a building requires stamina and control. If the officer passes all these steps, they are selected for the K-9 program. But even then, they are not yet considered a handler. Instead, they enter a training phase where they are paired with a police dog and begin learning how to operate as a team. During this stage, the officer's daily responsibilities are still similar to patrol, and their salary usually remains the same, typically between $60,000 and $85,000 depending on the department. But the pressure is different. Now the officer is learning to interpret an animal's behavior while managing real-world police calls. The dog may be trained for several specialties depending on the department's needs. Some dogs focus on tracking suspects, others on narcotics detection, and some are trained for explosives detection or search and rescue operations. Training programs usually last 3 to 6 months. Handlers learn how to control the dog during searches, how to give clear commands, and how to safely call the dog off if a suspect surrenders. And once the team successfully passes certification tests, the officer officially enters the next level of the hierarchy. They are no longer a candidate, they become a K-9 handler. For most people, the K-9 handler is the face of the entire unit. This is the officer working patrol with a trained police dog. The handler and dog function as a team, responding to calls that require specialized capabilities that regular patrol officers do not have. A typical shift begins before the officer even leaves home. Handlers check their dog's health, run obedience drills, and make sure the animal is mentally ready for work. Police dogs are high-energy animals that require regular training to stay sharp. Once the shift begins, the handler operates like any other patrol officer, responding to calls, assisting other units, and monitoring radio traffic. But when a situation requires a K-9 team, everything changes. Imagine a burglary suspect running through a neighborhood at night. Officers search the area but lose sight of the suspect. This is where the K-9 team comes in. The handler may present the dog with a scent article, a piece of clothing, or the object the suspect touched. The dog begins tracking the scent trail through streets, yards, and alleys. Tracking is one of the most valuable abilities a police dog provides. Humans rely primarily on sight, dogs rely heavily on smell. A trained K-9 can follow scent trails hours after a suspect has passed through an area. Handlers also perform building searches when officers believe a suspect may be hiding inside. In these situations, the dog enters first, moving through dark hallways or warehouses while the handler follows. These searches can be dangerous. Suspects hiding inside buildings may be armed or desperate. The dog acts as both a detection tool and a deterrent. Handlers are also responsible for maintaining the dog's training schedule. Departments require regular certification exercises to ensure the dog can still perform reliably. Financially, K-9 handlers often receive additional compensation for caring for the dog outside working hours. Salaries typically range from $70,000 to $95,000 with small stipends for kennel maintenance or veterinary care. But the biggest responsibility is not financial. It's the bond between the handler and the dog. The two train together, patrol together, and rely on each other in dangerous situations. And over time, some handlers move into the next level of the hierarchy, the role of senior handler. After several years working as a K-9 handler, some officers begin taking on a new role within the unit. They become senior handlers. This position is not always an official rank with a badge or title, but inside most K-9 units, it carries significant weight. Senior handlers are the experienced operators. They have spent years working with police dogs and have developed a deep understanding of how the animals behave during real-world operations. Because of that experience, they often become mentors for newer handlers entering the unit. When a rookie handler encounters a problem, perhaps a dog that suddenly refuses commands during training, or one that behaves unpredictably during a search, it is often a senior handler who steps in to help diagnose the issue. These officers assist with training exercises and may help evaluate new dogs being considered for the department. Police departments often purchase dogs from specialized breeders in Europe, particularly in Germany, Belgium, or the Netherlands. The selection process can involve evaluating temperament, drive, and responsiveness to commands. Senior handlers sometimes travel with supervisors to help test these dogs before they are purchased. Their daily responsibilities may still include patrol operations, but they also spend time assisting in training sessions and advising supervisors on operational tactics. Salary levels for senior handlers usually increase slightly compared to newer handlers, often reaching $80,000 to $105,000, depending on the department. But the real value of the role is influence. Senior handlers help shape how the unit operates. Their experience can determine how younger teams approach building searches, tracking operations, or suspect apprehensions. Some of these officers eventually move into specialized positions focused entirely on training. And that leads to the next step in the hierarchy, the K-9 trainer. K-9 trainers are responsible for one of the most important parts of the entire system. They build the teams. When a department acquires a new police dog, it does not immediately go into service. Instead, the dog enters an intensive training program where trainers evaluate its abilities and begin shaping its behavior. The process can take 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. Dogs must master obedience commands before moving into more specialized skills like scent detection or suspect apprehension. Trainers teach the dog how to respond consistently to verbal commands and hand signals from the handler. They also run repeated scenario exercises designed to simulate real-world deployments. For example, trainers may hide suspects inside buildings or vehicles and require the dog to locate them using scent. The goal is not just to teach the dog what to do, it is to ensure the dog performs reliably under stress. Because in the field, conditions are rarely controlled. K-9 trainers also work closely with handlers during training programs. They observe how the officer communicates with the dog and help adjust techniques when problems appear. In many departments, trainers also oversee annual certification programs that ensure every K-9 team remains qualified to work in the field. Salaries for K-9 trainers usually range from $85,000 to $110,000, depending on experience and department size. Above the trainers are supervisors responsible for managing the entire training program. These roles often include K-9 training supervisors or K-9 unit sergeants who coordinate schedules, review training standards, and ensure teams are ready for deployment. As officers move into these supervisory positions, their work becomes less about direct operations and more about managing the unit itself. At the higher levels of the K-9 hierarchy, leadership roles begin to dominate the structure. The K-9 unit sergeant typically supervises multiple K-9 teams during patrol operations. They coordinate deployments during major searches and determine how teams are used during large incidents. For example, if multiple suspects flee from a crime scene, the sergeant may assign different K-9 teams to search separate areas. Sergeants also review reports from handlers after deployments and ensure procedures were followed correctly. Salaries at this level often range from $95,000 to $125,000 depending on the department. Above the sergeant level are command positions such as K-9 unit lieutenants or commanders. These officers oversee the entire K-9 program within a police department. Their responsibilities include budgeting for new dogs, approving training programs, and coordinating with other law enforcement agencies during large investigations. Some K-9 programs operate specialized dogs for explosives detection or search and rescue operations. Command staff ensure these programs remain properly staffed and trained. At this level, salaries may reach $120,000 to $160,000 or more, particularly in large metropolitan departments. But the work becomes less about dogs and more about administration. Commanders must balance operational effectiveness with legal oversight, public scrutiny, and department budgets. And by the time an officer reaches this level, they have usually spent many years inside the system. Most started exactly the same way, as patrol officers applying to join the K-9 unit. When people imagine K-9 units, they often picture action. Dogs chasing suspects through dark alleys or tracking fugitives through forests. And those moments do happen. But the deeper reality of the K-9 hierarchy is something quieter. Handlers spend years building a relationship with an animal that depends entirely on them. They train together, work together, and eventually grow old together. Because when police dogs retire, usually after 8 to 10 years of service, they almost always retire with the handler, who worked beside them. The dog that once searched buildings and chased suspects now lives as a household pet. For many handlers, that transition is the most emotional part of the job. The dog that protected them during dangerous situations is suddenly no longer part of the work. Understanding the hierarchy of K-9 units reveals something important. These programs are not just about dogs, they are about people managing risk, responsibility, and trust within a structured system. And every officer who joins the unit begins the same way, at the very bottom of that ladder, working their way upward, one step at a time.